Hello everyone and welcome back once again to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today we're looking at a new aircraft to the sim released just this week, January 10th, 2023, the Embraer ERJ 175, available on the Asobo store as of right now. I'm sure it'll come to other marketplaces later on. This is the early access build of the aircraft, so it's not quite complete, but it's complete enough to where the devs felt the aircraft was ready to release, and I think it's in a good state for early access. There are some things to iron out, and there is a disclaimer that actually loads with the aircraft as you launch your flight. We'll take a quick look at that, and then we'll get into our normal texture sides of things, taking a look at the textures of the aircraft, listening to sounds. We're doing a quick flight today from LaGuardia here in New York State down to Ronald Reagan International Airport in the District of Columbia, maybe just outside of DC. Either way, two very famous airports, and we're going to be taking the ERJ 175 in the American Eagle livery. So without further ado, let's begin. So before we jump into the textures portion of our flight here, we're obviously aboard our flight deck, and I want to just roll over this quick early access disclaimer. This aircraft, like I mentioned before, is in early access, and there are some major issues that they've got loaded here, and it's just kind of letting you know it's not done. So we're not going to have any custom LNAV or VNAV. The autopilot's not the best, I can't confirm that, and the FPS isn't great. I didn't really notice that too much. It's not as good as it should be on the route that I flew just yesterday, but I don't think it's like sim crushing, but we'll see. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way, and we'll go ahead and look at our textures now. So with that quick disclaimer by the devs out of the way, let's jump into textures. And I'm, for the most part, pretty astonished with the texturing on this aircraft. This is a semi-long awaited aircraft to be released, and the quality of work shows. Obviously a one-off aircraft. There's nothing they really could have nabbed from a default Asobo airplane, so everything here looks to be crafted from the ground up, and it looks fantastic. Pretty much everywhere you look, reasonably high textures. This is a built-in American Airlines livery. A little bit of falling apart on that well, one, the transition between the nose cone and the fuselage, and then that single seam is a little bit low poly, but that's just nitpicking. Nose landing gear looking very nice. A little bit of lost resolution on the Bridgestone tires there. Coming back to the mains, they're looking very nice. Very high detail. Again, a little bit of lackluster textures on the tires, but all in all, looking pretty good. I do love the dirty weathering, especially on commercial aircraft. Those of us who have been on or work around or work with these aircraft, you know the airlines aren't keeping them clean, and I like that representation on this default stock livery. It's very, very nice. I haven't done this yet myself, so we're going to find out together. The patented, I don't know why I say patented so weird, it's just a thing I do now. The patented sample engine test. Do we pass? It looks like we might. Drum roll. Oh yeah. Okay, so we're through our first stage fan, and you can see there is a stator section for that first stage compressor, and then nothing back to that last turbine wheel, so you've got a nice center exit out of the exhaust cone there, and then you've got, yeah, just that last turbine wheel. So not great, but good enough to fool your eye while you're just sitting here on the ground. Let's see if I can do this while there's no power. I can. There we go. Oh, nope, come back, Mr. Thrust Reverser. There you go. Multitasking. Thrust reverser vanes looking pretty alright. Not the best polygons or reflections, but I mean, I'd say from this distance they look pretty good, in my opinion. Let's go back up to the forward section of the fuselage, take a look at some of the upper portions. Everything is looking very nice and tidy. Nice detail on those rivets. Those are rivets in combination with Phillips head screws. Windshield wipers are looking very nice. Obviously, they're fully modeled. Just sweep across the windscreen. Oh, don't want to go inside just yet. We will take a look at the inside. There's a modeled interior on this aircraft. Again, handcrafted. Landing taxi lights looking very nice from pretty much any reasonable distance. That is a 2D texture on the lenses, but it looks very high res, so that's nice. Really nice leading edge detail for the reflection on the leading edge. We do have the long extended swept winglet. There's two options for this aircraft. There's the winglet that we have here, and then the more straight up and down vertical one available on the 175. I like this style that you see on 175s and 190s, or 195s. I forget the Embraer nomenclature. Take a quick sweep down the top of the fuselage, take a look at some of our antenna systems. It's an interesting looking antenna. That must be VHF, that long trailing edge. It almost, when you're right on with it, looks almost like a loop antenna. But if you go up, obviously you can see there's just a single thing sticking off there. There'd be no need for a loop antenna on an aircraft this new. Love that smoking fastener, in this case screw bleed. That's very nice. Real nice detail on the beacon there when it's dark. Take a look at our main entry door here. Again, really liking that detail of the dirt. Take a look at our trailing edge wing here. Again, relatively good design all around. No real complaints from me. Little bit of, I don't even know if you want to call that tessellation on the fairing for the wing to fuselage, but nothing too bad. Real nice markings on our horizontal stab trim adjustment there. We'll come around to our horizontal stab, which has your nice static wicks there. 3 per side, it would appear. And your APU outlet. APU is obviously not running right now. There is a bit of an issue with the heat blur on the APU, but we'll take a look at that once we get power onto the aircraft. I think we'll go ahead and actually do that right now. There's your, I believe, your APU inlet. We'll take one quick sweep down the aft section. Take a look at the rear side of the mains. Really nice detail on the hydraulics. Take a look in the main gear bay. No complaints there. Love the brushes. I don't know what they're actually called. Basically, they're just little brushes. 737s, older 737s have them as well. Just kind of an insulator between the wheel and the main gear. Obviously, there's no gear door that covers the main wheel. And we'll take a quick look up in the nose gear bay. Similar story, not too great, but nothing too shabby. So let's hop inside of the 175, get power on board, get some lighting going. We'll take a look at external lighting, then we'll take a look at the cockpit, and then we will get our flight underway. So before we throw power on the aircraft, we'll take a look quickly around the cold and dark situation in the cabin. It's very, very nicely done. Little detailed on the weathering. You might have seen it on the little eyebrow here for the glare shield. Very nice detail. Pretty much everywhere you go. No complaints from me. Take a look at our overhead panel. Looking a little factory new, but I can live with it. There are little bits of weathering. You can see some specks on our battery switches and stuff like that, but I'd imagine those would get a little bit polished and a little bit worn down through as the aircraft was used. Separate VHF selector back here. Door to the rear cabin, which we'll take a look at. The doors on the aircraft do function. So there we go, letting in all that wind. Oh no. We're getting a PA announcement. Okay, well, we're gonna shuffle through the dark cabin here real quick. And it's just a general 2-2 layout, pretty bog standard for these aircraft. The offset was always a little bit interesting on ERJs. Never actually flown on one, but I am aware of that weird offset between the two classes. So you've got your economy class back here with a more narrowly spaced seating, and then you've got, I would assume it's business class up front with on-screen entertainment, or rear seat entertainment, I should say. And then there's a little bit more space between the seats, and the seats appear to be a little bigger. So it's actually 1-2 seating and then 2-2. But these seats definitely look a little bit larger. They're a little bit more nice. And obviously there's the in-flight entertainment as well, like I mentioned. Coming back in through the forward section of the aircraft, you can see nice galley detail. I think this is our lav. Does not appear to open. Is it modeled? Oh, I can't even go in there. So it stops you from no clipping through the wall. It's okay. It's just a lav. We don't need to go in there. So let's go ahead, hop on board, or hop in the pilot's seat and get some power on. You do have a very primitive EFB here, which swivels nicely into place. Currently, the only thing you can select is the ground. All of the other guys here are currently grayed out. Again, early access aircraft, so we're going to let stuff like that go. There's a settings option, and in here you can actually, this is very cool. I'd love to see this more from different aircraft. You can actually switch between the left and the right seat. So if I want to fly from the right seat, I just toggle this guy here on. I just toggle, there we go, and it automatically moves me over to the right seat. So now all of my controls still work in the aircraft, and I'm in the right seat. So if I need to, let's say, move over here and look at something on here, and I want to hit my default, go back to the seat or pilot seat button, it takes me straight there. So if I want to fly as a first officer, if we ever end up getting multi-crew support like so many of us are praying for, that is going to be a really nifty feature. But nonetheless, let's go ahead, power up the aircraft, take a look at external and internal lighting, and then we will listen to some sounds as we start up. All right, powering up the aircraft. You're going to have to bear with me a little bit here. It's been a while since I've been in a virtual ERJ. We do have our main battery switches 1 and 2 there. And then our APU is right here. So we're going to go 1 to the right and then click over to turn it on. While the APU is spinning up, I'm going to turn on our logo and nav lights. You can see we've got a few cautions in here. Our battery's just charging, and emergency lights are not armed, so we will do that. And we'll do a fasten seatbelts alert for the cabin. Now, I can't speak for actual Embraer aircraft, but this aircraft seems to spin up ready to taxi. There's no IRS alignment, it seems. It just seems to be done. So you do have, let's see, those are inline drive generators. Is there an IRS? I don't think there is. So maybe it's just ready to go. Works for me. I mean, cool. I think with the way aircraft are modernizing, that should be a pretty regular thing. Let's turn on the dome light. Actually, let's turn off the dome light. And we'll take a quick sweep around the aircraft. Let me turn on some of these guys here. So the lighting is very nice on this aircraft. I do like the different lighting zones and that sort of thing. So all lit up here is our cockpit, ready to fly. The displays are very nice, very crisp. A little bit washed out, and that's both with my EMB on and off, so I just turned it off there. They're still kind of washed out. It is what it is. Again, early access, you know, this would be something to kind of look into later on. But again, all of your Screens, switches, displays, all of that stuff is very, very nice. And we've got a little note here. What does this say? I noticed it when I was doing the flight earlier. Thank you for supporting us in this early access. It's made with heart, sweat, and lots of coffee. Half fair. Going to be complete, but we're constantly working on it. Please carefully follow our procedure guide for a smooth experience. All right. Well, thank you. Oh, wait. No, come back. Come back. No, come back. Oh, God, no. How do I make the note come back? I saw I could click on it. Okay, anyway. What else do I want to show you in the cockpit before we head outside? Got operable sliding windows. That's very nice. The real cool thing here, this checklist. Built-in checklist for the aircraft. And animated, say it with me, animated page turns. Animated page turns. Oh my lord. Animated page turns. I love that. Sits over here when you're not using it. When you need it, it's right here. Fantastic. Anyway, hopping outside, taking a look at our external lighting. There's that issue with the APU bleed you can see I was talking about. It's one, a little bit far from the exhaust. Obviously, your exhaust port's there. Heat cooler doesn't start till there, and it's a little slow. But those of you guys have, I mean, it's a little jet engine, so I mean, your heat cooler is going to be coming out of there pretty fast, and I would say probably in a slightly smaller cone. Again, early access airplane, so we're going to let a lot of that stuff go. Turn the sim down a little bit so you guys can hear me. But the lighting suite is very nice in this airplane. This is default lighting, no new light mod. Obviously, this airplane came out a day and a half ago as of recording, so no new light mod, but I don't think it needs it, really, honestly. There's your nav lights. Add a strobe in there. Love the added flash up the, what is the word? Up the wing light. You can see a little bit of reflection off that wing fence there. Definitely does it for me. Wing lights look great. I love how they fade in. I wish they faded out the same, but beggars can't be choosers. And for landing and taxi lights, we do have to head back inside. It's an interesting setup for the landing and taxi lights here. So you have your main landing lights here, your left, right, and nose positions, but you also have nose and side taxi lights. So that's what the nose and side taxi lights look like. Again, you can toggle those on and off individually as you so choose. And then you have landing lights, which are obviously much brighter. They really light up the side of the aircraft, and I love that. And you can turn those on and off as you like as well. What am I missing here? The beacon. I think the beacon's the one area where I could recommend improvement. I love the flash, I love the spread, but the actual emitter, it's like delayed, which is strange to me. I don't know what model year this ERJ is based off of. Current ERJ, at least the 190s, I can't speak for the 175s, but current 190s actually have LED beacons. And this is fading, which the LED beacon does not do. But the older beacons were just flash bulbs. They'd be on off, on off, on off, whereas these fade. So I don't know. I'm not disappointed by it, other than the little emitter. My big thing is actually just getting the spread, and here in broad daylight, we're able to get that spread. So no complaints for me. Looks like the FMS is pre-programming as of right now. You can change your waypoints if you wanted to. Where are you? So this is the flight plan that I set up in FlightSim. There are some parameters you need to set, so like your V-speeds, your takeoff weights, all that sort of stuff you can set. But as far as the routing goes, it's automatically done, as you can see in my MFD here. So it is what it is. It's not a huge deal to me. Sometimes when I'm feeling lazy, I actually prefer to just have it preloaded. So I'll call it a win if I choose to load it myself. I'll load it up in SimBrief and I'll take care of it that way. But let's go through a startup, a sound listen, which we kind of already have done while we've been poking around here. And we'll get on our way to Ronald Reagan in DC. Alrighty, jumping into the startup. One area of improvement for textures that I did see when I was turning around to lock our door. One, my head clips through the seat, but also look at the seat. That could use some work, but I'm willing to let, you know, this view when you're turned around go for everything else in the cabin looking as smooth as it does. So we are now sealed up. We've got the doors locked, beacons on. Let's go ahead and start up the Embraer. We've got our little engine covers here. You've got stop, run, and start positions. Full FADEX system. There's no fuel to introduce like you might see on a 737. Just turn your switch and go. So we're going to go engine number 1, start. And I don't think I even have to change the packs. Yeah, the auto duck down, you might have heard it there. I'm going to turn up the sim now. You may notice I'm not using GSX or anything like that. This aircraft currently doesn't really work well with GSX. It does work, but during pushback, it pushes the aircraft on the ground. Baggage loaders don't handle the doors correctly, and the positions aren't spot on for the passengers, so not perfect. Let's take a look outside. They're looking very nice on the main engines. Looks like one is started, so we'll go ahead and start number 2. Starting up here is the altimeter seems to automatically set at the start of each flight, but you will be responsible for setting it as your flight progresses. So that is a startup nearly complete. We're going to go back outside. We're going to listen to the engine sounds. We're going to throttle up and down our left-hand side engine, our number 1 engine. First from the front. Get the airplane squat under load and cut. One from the rear. Sounds very nice. And a little bit of reverse thrust. One gripe I do have immediately is it looks like it does that stupid FlightSim thing where based on your throttle position, the clamshell changes. I'll turn the sim back down here since we're done with the sounds. But on the cowl, so I'm at max thrust reverse on our left engine. I'm going to go back to half throttle. And you can see the door partially closes. It doesn't shut all the way. It just partially closes. That's a gripe of mine I've had. I don't even know how far back. I think since since thrust reversers were modeled, I've had that gripe. So it is a little bit of a bummer to see it here. Especially when a lot of default Asobo aircraft managed to do that so well. So we'll go ahead, push back here off camera because it's not going to be anything interesting. I'm probably just going to use slew mode, and then we'll get, I'll get the FMS set. Then we'll push back and then get set for our takeoff out of New York. Alright, I've got the FMS set enough to where I can complete my flight. And the LTL traffic injector is doing its job of, I was going to say injecting traffic, but there's nothing here. But don't worry, I got the frame rate loss because of it. We might actually just turn that off for better frames. I think that's what we'll do. So I got stuff coming to LaGuardia. Yeah, we'll just close that. Hopefully get a few of our frames back. Trying to think here. So one of the other things I did notice, and again, early access airplane, blah blah blah, disclaimer is nonsense. If you have a separate tiller assigned for your nose wheel steering, it doesn't work. Let me demonstrate. I'm currently using rudder pedals because that is what works. So I have a separate set for the tiller, and I have a dead zone in my rudder pedals, so that just in case I'm resting my foot on one or something, it doesn't try to take over and center the nose wheel. But if I go and turn my tiller, my physical tiller that I'm touching right now, it moves the aircraft for a second, but then it returns to center. And you can also see my physical tiller isn't moving, whereas if I move my rudder pedals, the tiller should... What are you doing, tiller? Why aren't you turning? Okay, well, the tiller doesn't work there either, but it does work independently. So hands off of my physical tiller and rudder pedals, and I can turn the aircraft physically. So I would like to see integration with the tiller working independently of the rudder pedals with the physical control like all of the other Sobo aircraft do. There are sun visors for both the pilot and co-pilot. So if you need a sun visor, you got one. They're fully animated, fully movable. Very cool, very nice. Love to see stuff like that. I'm going to keep on keeping on here. Get out to the threshold. Oh, look at blank terminals. I paid for this scenery. Wow, that's awesome. Anyway, I'm going to keep on keeping on to our threshold here, and we'll get a takeoff here pretty soon. So we're parked here on the threshold for runway 13, but I realized I never got around to showing you guys the cabin lit up. Why aren't you lit up, Mr. Cabin? You're dark. Does it have to be nighttime? This looked really nice at night. Yeah, there we go. Okay, make it nighttime. Hopefully you didn't hear that stupid Honda Fit horn in the background. But very nice. I've got the emergency lights on, so you've got that nice exit illuminator there. Your pathway lights are illuminated here. Really nice ambient lighting in the cabin. Just as was with the case with the A310, and I'm sure other aircraft like the Phoenix, you do have individually modeled fastened seatbelt and no smoking signs, so as you toggle those in the cockpit, your virtual passengers will see them turning on and off. But we're not going to traverse all the way to the back of the cabin. I just wanted to show you guys that it does have a very nice ambient lighting model. I'm going to go ahead and reseal our cabin here, lock our door. And let's go ahead and do this takeoff thing, huh? So we'll go landing lights on. Strobe and wing lights can come on. Taxi lights can stay off. No smoking, fasten seatbelt sign on. Sterile cabin doesn't work. We'll do an all call to the flight attendants. Break off. As we take the active. I'm going to turn up the sim a little bit as we taxi out here, because I do want you guys to get a good listen to these engines as we take off. Another thing that I'm not terribly familiar on, it could just be my lack of knowledge with the ERJs. I can't get the autopilot to do anything on the ground other than turn on the yaw dampener. As soon as I'm airborne and stabilized, it self-engages, which, God, I don't like that, but it does. So maybe that's, again, more my lack of knowledge, but nonetheless, let's spool them up and I'll shut up and let you guys listen to the takeoff. here we are rounding out 8,000 feet momentarily here. I recorded it before, but my microphone was off the entire time, so I'll just recap it here. The autopilot did exactly what I described before. It kicked itself in, wanted to maintain the current altitude that I was at the current speed I was at, which almost flew me into the ground. So I disengaged, climbed clear, and then re-engaged and set what I needed, flight level change and nav hold. So that seems to have rectified the situation. I have to wait a little bit and see. I did a quick flight from Milwaukee up to Green Bay last night in this aircraft, and I got a pretty big fuel imbalance. Looks like we're about, what is that, 280-ish pounds imbalanced right now. So if I need to, we'll try to remedy that. Our fuel panel is right up here, and you've got a nice cross feed for the pumps. So other than that, we're rocking and rolling. This gives us a chance to use our new sun visors. Let's go ahead and drop that bad baby down for what it's worth. There we go. And we'll put the FOs up as well, because they would also have a sun visor in this situation. Not sure what you do for the center position. If you've got sun coming out of the middle there, maybe you just deal with it, or maybe there's a pull down here. I did notice, so there is clearly a sunshade, or a shade of some kind here. As far as I can tell, there's nothing I can do to get that to come up. A little tab would be right here, and you can see the lock where it would lock in, but I can't seem to get it to do such. Again, early access airplane. Nonetheless, we're going to keep climbing here at 210 knots. Just crossed 10,000, so we'll ditch the landing and logo lights. We'll climb our speed up to 250. And keep cruising towards DC. So just another little bug here on the autopilot. I've had flight level 240 dialed since we began, and I realized we weren't climbing anymore, and the aircraft just decided to round itself out at about 19,200 feet in altitude hold. So again, just a little bit of a bug with the autopilot, not a huge deal. I am really loving the differentiation between the visored and non-visored area. That's really nice. That looks amazing. And in this fuel situation, I've had both of my fuel pumps running the same, and I'm at almost 1,000 pounds of imbalance. I've been running my crossfeed pump over to the right-hand side for quite a while now, but that imbalance just seems to continuously get worse, so maybe that's a bug. Maybe it's something in my operations side of things. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll keep an eye on that, and if it continues to deteriorate, we'll dump fuel out of the left-hand fuel tank if we need to, assuming this aircraft actually has a fuel dump. I don't know if it does. Let's take a look-see. I got icing, fuel shutoffs. I don't know if there is a... do auto... on auto, or on auto. I don't see anywhere we would dump fuel. There's fire extinguishers, cockpit voice recorder, nothing aft of us. Oh, let's close that. I was doing a little scenic shot earlier and I forgot to secure the cabin. It's made a dark joke. I was going to say we'd be the next German wings. Also, it is worth pointing out back here, my laggy little cabin, FlightSim still has that bug where if you fly for too long, it slows way the heck down, but nonetheless there is a jump seat well. It's nicely animated. But as far as fuel dump, don't see any option, which I guess would make sense. There's no obvious fuel dump veins like you'd see on like a 777 or something, so that's okay. We're rolling in now to, well, not really. We're headed to Belay. It's our next waypoint. And at BAL, we'll start our descent. We're now rounded off at 24,000 feet in the Embraer ERJ 175. Okay, so we are many hours in the future for me. It is a continuous video for you guys. Had lots of loading issues with FlightSim in general. It's not this aircraft specific. I in the process of doing this went and tried loading up other aircraft like the PMDG 737, a couple default airplanes at default airports, and it seems FlightSim just isn't in a loading mode, so that's fine. We'll make do, but I did want to give you guys landing impressions of this aircraft. So we're actually we're in Norway right now. We're flying in a KLM livery now, so that gives you the chance to get a better look at the night lighting on the aircraft, as well as a different livery once we get towards the ground. We're frozen, you know, it's FlightSim. What do you do? And if I remember, I'm going to try to remember my best to actually take a look at rain effects. See if there's a rain effect animation on this as well. We hit a little bit of snow coming in, but it looks like that is gone now. So I go to weather. Well, there's a little bit up ahead, so that's cool. I do like to see a working weather radar. That's always great to see on third-party airplanes. There's been that issue with Asobo for a while now, and looks like a lot of the new devs have it figured out, which is awesome to see. Gotta reset all my screen brightnesses here. Alright, final checks. We're full flaps, gear down, and locked. A little bit high. So we'll go ahead and reduce some power. Looks like we've got a mild crosswind, 8 knots. So we'll start accounting for that. So we increase our rate of descent a little bit here. Just over 1,000 feet per minute. We'll round that out now, actually, as we're going below the glide path on the Pappy. Below the glide path now. We'll increase a little bit of power, keeping in mind that 8-knot crosswind.
400.
All right on the Pappy, although our visual approach looks relatively stable. Maybe the touchdown zone is just way down the runway there. Oh, I see the touchdown zone.
30, 20, 10, 5.
Oh, tried to grease it. Let's float her down. We're right at our stall speed. Here we go. Auto brake disarmed itself. Derotating. Thrust reverses out. And we'll do some manual braking action. In below 80 knots now. In below 60. We'll close the thrust reversers. And taxi lights will come on. Landing lights will come off. Wing light can come off. Strobe light can come off. And as we turn off here, we'll start deconfiguring. It sounds like our flight attendant's doing a announcement. I do like the kind of muffled flight attendant announcement sound. We'll go main, wheel light on, and we'll just manually taxi in here. Like I said before, GSX is not really playing too nice with this aircraft as of right now. And for probably the 7th or 8th time. It is an early access, so that's something to keep in mind. But at night, you can really see a lot of those lighting effects shine, literally, pun intended. Especially, I do love that reflection off of the wing for the cabin. Cabin's fully modeled inside, so as you pan around, no forward-facing sprites. The one complaint I do have is if you look at our window shades, which are partially deployed, they're just a stark white as compared to the black color they probably would be underneath normally. But not a huge deal. While we're taxiing in, we'll get the APU starting. Get back on that center line. You can see in our ICAST there, we do have a APU, very small section for the APU indication. I think we'll turn in here. No ground instruction to follow, no, oh, there's the APU pack, whirring away. Anyway, no ground instruction and no follow me car this time, so we're just gonna make our way to the terminal. Actually, I can see it now. Just keep making our way that way. I'll fast forward for you guys once we're back in the gate. And I will take a look at those rain effects. Alright, rolling into gate 26. Have to go ahead and manually stop ourselves here. Head outside. And hold her there. Very good. On our... Forgot we had those. We use those more often. Alright, seatbelts can come off. No smoking can come off. APU is spun up. Generator's on. Bleed air for the APU is on, so we'll go ahead and shut down. And then take a look at some of the weather effects here. So let's go monsoon. Okay, monsoons mean rain, don't they? Doesn't that mean rain? Okay, you know what? Forget it. Let's go storm, and there's a torrential rain preset. Boom. Why is it not raining? Excuse you. Where's the rain? There. Come on. Come on. Let's do a default one. Rain? It's just, there's no rain. Okay, I guess I will reload and try again? I don't know. I will do that separately in post. We'll close out the video here. Just throw it up in the background now. But thank you guys very much for watching this video. I definitely think this is a long-term aircraft to keep. One to get a lot of use out of. Can't wait for the FS2020 community to get their hands on it, to get some libraries, some new libraries made. There's a good selection to start with. You've got, just off the top of my head, obviously the KLM in front of us, the American we were flying before, that comes in two variants, the long winglet as well as the short winglet, and then you've got I believe it's Air Fiji, then you have the developer variants, short and long winglets, United variants, and I think there's one or two more that I might be missing, but I definitely recommend checking out this aircraft, even in its early access state. It's a good airplane all around. I would be okay, autopilot issues aside, I would be okay with this aircraft as it's shipped. for the price. I think right now it's on sale for like 35 bucks. So you can't really go wrong there. Definitely a pickup if you're looking for a reasonably priced pay-wearer medium range regional jet. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do very much so appreciate it. I will catch you in the next video. And as always, take it easy.